What about Melissa Hortman? This is the left's new refrain when talking about Charlie Kirk. Now, is this a valid argument or not? Let's discuss it. All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about the question of whether the Melissa Hortman situation is on par with the Charlie Kirk assassination. And, to be honest, it's a fair question. When the left brings up, what about Melissa Hortman? But is it apples to apples or is it apples to oranges? Well, how are we comparing this? How does it stack up? But before we get into it, let's actually go in and take a look and remind ourselves of the Melissa Hortman situation, right? This is from ABC News. Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman killed. State Senator John Hoffman wounded in quote unquote targeted political violence. A masked gunman disguised as a police officer shot and killed a Minnesota state representative and her husband and wounded a state senator and his wife early Saturday in two back-to-back shootings in Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz called it an act of targeted political violence. Well, is it? Or is this just, political propaganda and hyperbole? Well, we're going to find out. But hours after the shooting, the suspected gunman, a 57-year-old Vance Luther Butler, remained on the run. And there's a picture of this psychopath. Right? The lawmaker was killed, was a Democratic representative, Melissa Hortman. She and her husband, Mark, were shot and killed in their home in what appears to be a politically motivated assassination. Hortman, formerly the Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, was a formidable public servant, the governor said of his friend. She is irreplaceable. Shortly before the shooting, State Senator John Hoffman, a Democrat, and his wife, Yvette, were both shot multiple times at their homes. They were undergoing surgery Saturday morning, the governor said. Now let's go back because we're saying Saturday. This was back in June 14th, just to give us some idea, right? We cautiously optimistic they would survive the assassination attempt, says Walz. Here's the two people. Here's Melissa Hortman. Here's John Hoffman. Authorities said they're still investigating if Butler knew the victims in Saturday's shooting, although it was known he served on the State Workforce Development Board alongside Hoffman, and I will address this a little bit later. Butler helped lead the private security firm Praetorian Guard Security Services, which is based in the Twin Cities area, according to a company website. A husband and father, according to an online biography. He was touted an extensive background in security and military training, according to ABC News review of this online presence of professional history. Butler was wearing a realistic latex mask at the time of the shootings, according to police. Also had a target list with names of dozens of Minnesota Democrats, according to law enforcement sources. The two shooting locations were a few miles away from each other in Champaign and Brooklyn Park, just north of Minneapolis. Right? The officers found a person who was dressed as a police officer wearing a vest and badge with a taser and other equipment at the door coming out of Hortman's house, police said. The suspect fired at the officers. Gunfire was exchanged, and the suspect was able to escape and flee on foot. Oh my good, foot. Authorities said the suspect's vehicle, which looked like a police vehicle, including police lights, was in Hortman's driveway, authorities said. A list of other possible targets was retrieved from the suspect's vehicle. Authorities said the list named Hortman and Hoffman, including dozens of other Democrats from Minnesota, including Governor Walz, U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, U.S. Senator Tina Smith, and State Attorney General Keith Ellison, according to law enforcement. The shooter's list of potential targets also included the names of abortion providers and pro-choice activists. Several sources told ABC News. Many of the Democratic lawmakers on the list have been outspoken by pro-choice policy positions, two sources said. President Donald Trump has been briefed on the shooting and said such horrific violence will not be tolerated. Notice that. Trump actually spoke out against this action. So before anybody says anything about well, Trump, blah, 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 blah. He spoke out against this action when asked about it, right? Attorney General Pam Bondi, the horrific violence will not be tolerated and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Now, so the argument now is becoming, what about this situation in regards to the Charlie Kirk situation? Is it the similar? Is it the same? Right? Well, there are similarities, obviously, but we are comparing oranges to apples and apples to oranges. They're not, although there are similarities, both apples and oranges are a fruit. They're both grown on trees. They're similarities, but they're not the same. They don't have the same consistency. They don't have the same vitamins. They don't have, there's a lot of things that are different about them, which makes them separate fruits, right? Even though they are in the category of fruit, they are separate fruits. And therefore, we cannot put this Melissa Hortman situation and compare it to Charlie Kirk and say, see, they're the same. They're just the same. No, they're not. And I'm going to explain a little bit more. But let's go into this Vance Luther Bolter, because you go to Fox News. Fox News will say Vance Luther Bolter was he was a Democrat because he had no King's propaganda in his car and blah blah blah. And then the left will say, well, he was targeting Democratic senators and representatives and AGs and abortion clinics. Both sides are absolutely correct. And let's go into this a little bit more. Let's learn a little bit more of Vance Luther Bolter, right? This says he was a Republican. But let's go over everything and just make sure that we're going to go over that. And I'm going to explain a little bit of this. And now I went to Grok because Grok tends to be a little bit more neutral. ChatGPT leans more on the left side than they do on the right. So Grok tends to be more in the middle, although it does have a bent towards the conservative side. Just be honest. So I did go to Grok to be a little bit more in the middle on this subject. So what did I said? Who did Vance Luther Bolter vote for most office, Republican or Democrat? And it says Republican. Vance Luther Bolter, a Minnesota voted most often for the Republican candidates based on available public records and statements from those close to him. Minnesota does not require voters to declare a party affiliation upon registration. So official records do not list when, but voting history in primaries reveals preferences. And the evidence is the 2024 president's primary. Bolter voted in Minnesota's March 2024 Republican presidential primary, supporting Donald Trump. He did not participate in the Democratic primary. This is confirmed by voter data from the GOP Data Center and the Minnesota DFL party's records, as reported. Earlier registered while living in Oklahoma in the early 2000s, Bolter was registered to vote as a Republican. No Democratic primary. There is no record of voting for any Democratic primaries, including 2024, where his precinct had clear Democratic turnout. Bolter's longtime friend and roommate, Dave Carlson, confirmed to multiple outlets that Bolter voted for Trump and supported him. Some online disinformation has falsely claimed Bolter was a Democrat due to his 2016 and 2019 appointments to a state workforce board by Democratic governors. Now, I'm actually going to go over there in my response to this, which I think will eloquently, as best as I can do it, give both sides of the story and give a contextual overall picture of this guy. State reports 2016 and 2020 list his affiliation as none or other and no party preference. All right. I then asked, great, did he not have no King's placards in his cars and have pride flags on his house? No King's placards in his car. Yes. Authorities did find handwritten no King flyers in the fake police SUV abandoned by Luther in the June 14, 2025 shootings. This is confirmed by multiple sources, including the Minnesota State Patrol, FBI, and court documents. And then goes on to comment, comment, comment on these with commentary. These flyers reference nationwide anti-Trump protests occurring that day, which criticize authoritarianism and Trump's military parade. Right. However, Bolter's overall profile, voting for Trump and anti-abort thing, and evangelical conservatism suggests, keyword there, suggests he wasn't participating in the protests. That is speculation. Includes him planning to infiltrate or disrupt them or the fires unrelated to his intent. No evidence shows that he was carrying them as support for movement. Now that's true. But remember, it says suggests. It suggests speculation. These are only what people suspect. It's not proof. It's not confirmation or anything. That's what people suspect. Now, is Fox News right when they say he was a left-winger because he was assigned to a nonpartisan commission by Tim Walz? Or is the left right when they say, well, he was targeting political people on the left and stuff like that, and abortion clinics and blah, blah, blah. And he, and he's a evangelical and all this good stuff. Well, that's a great question. So what about Melissa Hortman? Now, someone brought this up on Facebook, and the person who brought this up is a dear friend, in my opinion. We've met once or twice in person, but I have talked to her many times and various different platforms, and we've had discussions. She's a very popular woman, very successful. I love her to death. I think she's got a great head on her shoulders. We do divide ourselves politically, but I think culturally and socially, we're pretty aligned. She has 4 beautiful children, very successful children. She was once married to a pro NBA basketball player. Her older son is a pro basketball player on the Boston Celtics, or at least was. I don't follow basketball that much, so pardon my ignorance in this thing. I don't really follow, so I don't know if her son actually still plays for the Celtics or if he's retired or what. That said, very successful family, very politically orientated family. One of her sons, her younger son, actually ran for Michigan State representative. He didn't make it, but he ran. He had a good turnout. It just wasn't good enough. But very politically minded family, very successful minded family. Got nothing but great things to say. But she brought up this whole thing about, what about Melissa Hortman? Right? So what about her? So this is what I wrote to her on Facebook. You're absolutely right. What about Melissa Hortman? That's a great question. A fair question. But the situation isn't apples to apples. Now, is it? First off, who is Melissa Hortman? Up until the time she was callously murdered, no one even knew her name in the grand scheme of things. She was a nobody, like you and I are nobodies. Now, let me clarify that a little bit. Yes, in this regard, she was a nobody. She didn't have the reach. But I clarify that here in the next sentence. She didn't have international fame, celebrity, reach, or influence. Her life only touched a few. That's supposed to be only, not on. Right? So she didn't have the same reach that Charlie Kirk did. She wasn't internationally known. Was she important to a few people? Yes. Was she well liked in her sphere of influence? Yes. Was she somebody to that sphere of influence? Absolutely, 100%. I don't want to discount her value or her influence for what she had, because it was significant. It was very powerful for that very tight-knit community. When we're talking the global spectrum, right? On the global platform, she's a nobody. Nobody knew her name. No one knew of her, right? Except for those few people in that area or in that region, right? Her family, obviously, very important. So I don't want to devaluate her because she has value, as every person has value. But when you're looking at the global aspect, she was a nobody. Nobody knew her. No, she wasn't on any radar at all. You know what I mean? Like I'm on nobody's radar. Will anybody watch this? Probably 5 to 10 people will see this video, if at all. Probably the only person that will have any views on this video is myself and people who are directly. And that's fine because I'm not doing it for that. But when I say she's a nobody, I'm talking about on the global scheme of things, the greater scheme, right? Don't misconstrue or conflate that I'm saying she's a nobody, right? That doesn't, now she didn't have international fame, celebrity, reach, or influence. Her life only touched a few. That doesn't justify her being shot by a deranged maniac, mind you. There's absolutely no justification for that, but that is not the point of this discussion, now is it? And what about the loser that shot her? Well, let's look at the facts. 1, his hit list was full of liberals, Democrats, and pro-choice activists. Yes, this would lead to people assuming that he was a right-winger. I 100% agree. If this is all we looked at, exactly. 2, his car was full of no kings propaganda. Now, this doesn't prove he was on the left. Maybe he was stealing this stuff to throw away, possible. Or as that other document said, or as the Grok thing, maybe he was there to infiltrate the meetings. Don't know. Possible. Absolutely. 3, his home was decorated with pro-LGBTQ pride flags and pro-Biden posters, a serious indicator that this person was more left-wing than right-wing. Add that with the No King posters and the argument that this was a left-wing nut job, not a right-wing moron, becomes far more concrete. But wait, there's more. 4, Vance, the nut job murderer, based on voting records from Oklahoma and Minnesota, showed that he most often voted Republican. Per reports from friends, he apparently voted for Trump. Add that to the point 1 above, and we can derive that he was a far-right lunatic. Again, you, depending on how you want to view this, you can make your assumptions. Number 5, Vance was appointed to a commission directly from Governor Tim Walz. Now, that is not proof that was either left or right. Many commissions with the public are bipartisan or nonpartisan, right? So the point is, Vance was a very nuanced guy. And an argument can be made that he was a far-right extremist. And an argument can be made that he was a far-left extremist. Personally, I believe he is more in the middle, ideologically speaking, with a bent towards the right. But you're right. If conservatives want to be absolutely fair, they have to call out political violence, and they have to call out political violence in all of its forms from all sides. I totally believe that. We can't be hypocritical in this. We definitely have to call out political violence. I already showed you that Pam Bondi, both Donald Trump, all called out political violence in this stead. They said that it was wrong. They're going to prosecute it to the fullest extent of the law. They don't abide by it. They don't approve of it. It's not okay. But I continue on. I hate hypocrisy. It's my pet peeve, and it is. My personal pet peeve is hypocrisy, and I hate it from anybody who does it. I don't care if you're right-leaning, left-leaning, middle-leaning, or if you're just an idiot like me. I can be hypocrite. I can have hypocrisy in myself too, and I hate it when I notice it or somebody points it out to me. And when somebody does point out, I like take a serious look and try to, okay, let me formulate something. And you probably will find some hypocrisy in this video. And if you do, point it out to me. It only makes me better. Iron sharpens iron, right? And to not acknowledge Melissa Hortman's death of a right-wing monster is hypocritical. So notice that. It is hypocritical of the right side if they don't point out that Melissa Hortman was assassinated by a right-winger. And I believe he was a right-winger. I don't believe that he was a left-winger. Yes, he might have had some nuances towards the left, but I mean, it could be argued that that was just because he had a hit list and he wanted to go to these places where those people would be. And that makes complete sense to me in my mind. But to put Melissa Hortman on the same level as Charlie in significance is also hypocritical, which it is. You cannot say that Melissa Hortman's comports itself the same as Charlie Kirk's. Charlie Kirk had a huge, major international influence. Melissa Hortman only had a regional influence. Charlie Kirk was a famous celebrity on the right. Melissa Hortman was only known in her specific region. While there are similarities, they're both fruit. They are not the same fruit. They are not on the same level. One has a larger influence and larger impact on our culture than the other. That's just the way it is. That's fact. So to bring up Melissa Hortman in the same context as Charlie Kirk to prove a point is hypocritical. It is not the same. While there are similarities, and it should be called out, it is not the same as Charlie Kirk. Period. End of story. Period. End of done deal. Nix. Nothing more. Right? We can acknowledge, right? So, but to put Melissa Hortman on the same level as Charlie in significance is also hypocritical. They are apples and oranges with some slight similarities, but they are not the same. We can acknowledge the horrific death of Melissa while still being outraged over Charlie Kirk. Both can be true. Both can be done, right? They are not mutually exclusive. Hopefully I use that correct. If not, correct me in the comments, right? They're not the same thing. I am calling out this Vance Boltler dude as being a far right extremist, moronic, idiot, deranged lunatic, because that's what he is. What he did was horrific. It was vile, and let's be honest, just downright evil. There is no room in our society, in a polite society, in an advanced society that we think we are in, should this be acceptable on any level. But you notice, no one was cheering for Vance. No one. No one was, yay, the ding, ding, dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. Oh, I'm so happy she deserved it. Nothing of that happened. Not one iota of that happened. You can't find one single instance where a right-leaning person, a conservative, was cheering for the fact that this person was gunned down in her home, unceremoniously, viciously, and callously. In fact, you could go over and over and find on the right side condolences and outrage the fact that this Yahoo did this action. But on the left side, all you see is a bunch of far left extremists, and it's about 20 to 30% of you people on the left, definitely not all of you on the left, but a good portion to make it a very disturbing trend. And that group is expanding and growing. Just based on polls, it's a growing and becoming bigger and bigger by the day. You guys celebrated, and then you guys didn't speak out about that. Some of you did. Most of you can stay quiet, meaning that you are in tacit consent with those far-right, lunatic, mentally ill psychopaths that are cheering for the death of Charlie Kirk. You didn't see anybody on the right side cheering for Lance or Vance, right? But you see it and it's not just they cheered over Charlie Kirk's death. They cheering over Luigi Mangione over in New York, who literally executed somebody execution style over him running a company. Now, is that company evil? Maybe. I don't know. Is that company, hate people and just out greedy? There's a good chance that's cat. Did that person deserve to lose his life over that? No, there's a lot of people in that company. It's not just that guy who that CEO of that United Healthcare group or whatever that was involved in this. There's members of the board. There's the executive suite of people. There's a whole bunch of people. Yet you got a bunch of New Yorkers out there dressing like Luigi from Mario Kart, cheering on Luigi. Yay! You guys are in a cult for doing that. You're mentally sick in the head. Quite honestly, you should all be put in an asylum, given some happy juice, some serotonin, told to walk around in nature and touch some trees, go barefoot in the grass, kind of thing. It is a sick person who cheers on the death of anybody. It is a sick person that actually is very hypocritical. Hypocrisy is very frowned upon in the Bible. It doesn't say hypocrisy specifically, but if you read the Bible, hypocrisy is not a good thing. And I hate hypocrisy. That's my personal pet peeve. That's what I go rally against. So the question comes in, what about Melissa Hortman? It's a valid question. It's a valid argument, but it is not on the same level as when we're talking in aspects of Charlie Kirk. And when somebody on the left brings up, what about Melissa Hortman? All they're trying to do is deflect and then justify why it's okay that there was political violence against Charlie. You're giving a tacit consent that Charlie's murder was justified, and it's not. And I see through your hypocrisy. I see it through your freaking vile insults. That is covert, your covert sin. Trying to say, well, Melissa Hortman. Yes, what happened to her was horrific. It was vile. It was evil. And all of those epitaphs are valid and should never have happened. And I hope that guy gets the full extent of the law thrown at him. And if he's found guilty, I hope he gets the full maximum sentence that's allowed. Absolutely. I, for one, call out that action. But to put him in the same boat as Charlie, it's not the same. And it's only a deflection. And it's only an attempt to justify what happened to Charlie is correct. And that's not true. So stop bringing up, what about Melissa Hortman? I don't want to hear it. It's a bullshit excuse. It's a bullshit argument in this context. If you want to do it in another context, that's completely fine and a valid argument. Let's do that. Let's have that discussion. But when we're talking about the Charlie Kirk situation, it's not apples to apples, and you should stop doing it. With that, I finish off. Hopefully, I made my argument. If not, well, whatever. Yell at me in the comment section if you wish. I don't care if you do or don't. I'm not doing this for political influence. I'm not doing this to get money. I'm just doing it because I need a place to rant, and this is my place to rant. If you want to like it, dislike it, please do so. If you want to leave a comment, please do so. No pressure. You don't have to do anything. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. Doesn't make a difference to me. I appreciate if you do. I will comment. If you comment, I will reply back. Whether you do it for me or against my argument, either or, I will have that debate with you. But I just want to leave you with this from our Lord Jesus Christ and Savior. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Have a good day. Bye-bye.